4 non-fiction books that made me better and could change your life too. And this isn't the usual suspects that you've seen on tons of videos and lists before. Molecular Storms by Liam Graham. The physics of stars, cells, and the origin of life. I'm a biologist, but I was really surprised at the insights that could be made about the nature of life from the perspective of physics and thermodynamics. So if you like physics, biology, or you just love good non-fiction, this book is right up your street and has changed the way that I see life. Being Mortal by Atul Gawande. This is a book all about aging and death from the point of view of a medical professional. What really surprised me reading this book, I'm in my 30s, and already what I'm hearing is that many of my body systems are starting to decline. For example, cognitive function, your teeth, your eyes, they all go on this steady decline as we age. Now that might sound very negative, but we have to confront that reality if we're going to look after ourselves in old age. Furthermore, our inability to confront the realities of death, for example, in the Western world where death is hidden behind closed doors, many people would never see a person pass away. However, that's not the case everywhere in the world, and some cultures actually celebrate death in different ways that may be a lot more healthy. Drystone, A Life Rebuilt by Kristie De Garis. So what is Drystone? So those are those walls you'll see in rural areas, particularly in Scotland and England, and they look very organic, very rustic. And that's because the art of building these walls involves finding the stones in a field. So you have to work with what you have, and each stone is naturally shaped, and you have to find its own place in the wall. So it's an incredible practice, and the author found great solace in this practice from a life that was very difficult in terms of undiagnosed ADHD, and also the author's experience of racism in rural and urban Scotland. The reason we need to read this book is there's kind of a myth in Scotland that racism isn't something that applies to us, it's something that applies to other countries, that we're more welcoming. However, the way that people who are othered in society are treated, even here, is unfortunately far from okay. Buddhism, Plain and Simple by Steve Hagen. This book has probably had the most profound impact on me as a person out of everything I've ever read. Particularly, I remember how it felt when I read about how in Buddhism, it's taken that suffering and discomfort is an inevitable part of being alive, of existence. And I found that so validating because of the internal struggles that I had, that we all have, that weren't being said out loud, particularly at that time. So I just felt so much comfort that this was being recognised. The other thing about this book, which is so important, and as I said, these books I think could make your life better and could improve things for you and others around you, is the concept of ego in Buddhism. That's the thing I wish other people I knew learned. So often we interact with the world from a very narrow perspective in our own heads. And by being aware of the fallacy there, how we can be misled by our own mind and our own perceptions and our own experiences, we can be better able to support others whose experiences could be very different and very hard for us to really connect with. 4 of my very favourite, most profound life-altering books. If you've read any of them, let me know in the comments what your reaction to the book was.